In this chapter, we will look at how to clean the refrigeration cycle. The sections of this chapter are as follows. 1. Cleaning tools for refrigeration cycle. 2. How to clean the hot line. 3. How to clean capillary tube. Let me introduce the cleaning tools required for refrigeration cycle. Cleaning tools are nitrogen or R410A, manifold gauge, electric guitar's third string, and PET bottle. To clean the cycle, let me explain the tools required to make a wash hose. You will need 2 band belts and 50 cm gauge hose, and the right image shows the assembled set of a wash hose. You will need an exhaust hose to clean the cycle, and how to make it is as follows. The required materials are 6 to 6 high pressure fittings, charging tube, and transparent hose. To make it, first secure the fitting to the tube. Next, install the fitting to the transparent hose and complete the assembly of refrigerant exhaust hose. How to clean the hot line. First, let me explain the cutting areas for cleaning the hot line. With faulty compressor, you should check the oil inside the compressor and the dryer. The left image shows a contaminated compressor oil, and the central image shows a dryer that absorbed the moisture. If the color of oil is dark, you should clean the accumulated contaminants in the hot line and condenser. Let me explain the cutting areas for cleaning the hot line. Cut the condenser inlet and dryer inlet indicated by arrows with a mini cutter. You can clean the hot line by allowing the refrigerant or nitrogen to pass through the cut ends of the pipe and flush out the foreign matter inside. Let's learn about the cleaning order of hot line. Required tools are wash hose set, refrigerant exhaust hose, PET bottle, nitrogen or R410A, and mini cutter. 1. Remove the condenser inlet. 2. Remove the dryer and secure the wash hose on hot line. Firmly secure 2 clamps in place. 3. Connect refrigerant exhaust hose to the condenser inlet. Tighten the hose connection so that it doesn't fall out by the exhaust pressure. 4. Install PET bottle on the end of the refrigerant exhaust hose outside. Secure the hose in place so that it doesn't fall out by the exhaust pressure. 5. Connect the wash hose to the refrigerant or nitrogen. Flushing refrigerant type is R410A. 6. Turn R410A tank upside down and charge refrigerant in a liquid state. 7. Clean the cycle with refrigerant in a liquid state. At the beginning of contaminant exhaustion, flip R410A tank back up. 8. After refrigerant exhaustion, clean the cycle with refrigerant in a gaseous state for 5 minutes. 9. Remove the wash hose. To finish cleaning, allow the refrigerant gas to pass the tube and verify that the hot line temperature reaches the room temperature. This prevents dew formation inside the hot line. The image shows foreign substance inside the hot line after cleaning. 3. How to clean capillary tube. First, the cutting areas for cleaning capillary tube are indicated by arrows. Cut the cap tube near the evaporator inlet. Next, let me explain the cleaning order of capillary tube. Required tools are electric guitar's third string, 3-way valve jig set, cap tube cutter, friction tape, wash hose set, refrigerant exhaust hose, PET bottle, nitrogen or R410A, and mini cutter. First, prepare the electric guitar string with 0.4 mm outer diameter. 2. As the image shows, cut the cap tube with a mini cutter. And then insert the guitar string all the way. If the string cannot be inserted all the way, round off the end of the guitar string with a sandpaper. Remove the guitar string after inserting it all the way. 3. As the image shows, connect the refrigerant exhaust hose to cap tube, and then wrap the friction tape around the hose so that it does not fall out. 4. Install a PET bottle on the end of the refrigerant exhaust hose outside. Make sure to secure the hose in place so that it doesn't fall out by the exhaust pressure. 5. Cut 3-way valve inlet. Connect wash hose. Tighten the band around the hose so that it won't fall out. 6. Open the cut cap tube outlet of the 3-way valve with a jig. 7. Connect R410A refrigerant to the wash hose. Flip the tank upside down to charge in liquid state. 8. Clean the cycle with refrigerant in a liquid state. At the beginning of contaminant exhaustion, flip R410A tank back up. 9. After refrigerant exhaustion, clean the cycle with refrigerant in a gas state for 1 minute. 10. Remove wash hose and refrigerant exhaust hose. Ensure to not remove the hoses if there is frost buildup in pipes. Remove the hoses after 5 minutes. 6. How to use 3-way valve jig. Let's look at how to use the 3-way valve jig. Read and fully understand this manual before using the jig. First, let me explain the jig components. Jig machine, DC 12-volt adapter, DC 12-volt Li-ion battery, connection cable for inspecting the 3-way valve. The operation temperature of the temperature sensor is minus 55 degrees Celsius to 125 degrees Celsius, or minus 67 to 257 degrees Fahrenheit. BLDC fan motor connection cable can be used to connect the 3-pin type and PWM 4-pin type. Let me explain the digital pressure sensor. Operating pressure of the pressure sensor is minus 10 psi to 700 psi. As the image shows, the pressure is indicated after the jig and the pressure sensor are connected. The pressure sensor can be made as shown in the image below for use. Second, let me explain the jig port name. The 4 LEDs on the top displays the output signal of the 3-way valve or EEV valve. The battery voltage is expressed in percentage, and 4 menu options are displayed. The bottom of the jig displays 4 menu buttons for selection. On the right side of the jig, there are connector ports for connecting the EEV valve 5-pin and 3-way valve. On the bottom of the jig, there is an EEV valve 6-pin connector port. On the top side of the jig, there are BLDC fan, temperature sensor, and DC 12-volt in ports. On the left side of the jig, there is a pressure sensor connector port. Third, let me explain how to use the jig. 1. Connect the battery to jig. 2. Check the battery voltage. You need to charge the battery when the display reads below 11 volts. 3. To operate 3-way and EEV valve, press the button 1. 4. To measure the temperature, press the button 2. 5. To check pressure, press the button 3. 6. To check the BLDC fan motor, press the button 4. Fourth, how to check 3-way valve. Since you have already learned this content in page 61 and 62 in the previous chapter, we will skip this part. Let's look at how to check the 3-way valve by cutting the 3-way valve outlet pipe. First, remove the R600A refrigerant. 2. Open the suction pipe of the compressor. In order to have smooth air movement in the compressor, cut the suction pipe and open it. 3. Cut the three-way valve discharge pipe. Cut both sides of the three-way valve with a cutter. 4. Connect the jig and three-way valve. 5. Power on the unit. 6. Select the type of three-way valve. 7. Open both sides of three-way valve and check the jet. 8. Open the left side of three-way valve and check the jet. 9. Open the right side of three-way valve and check the jet. 10. Close both sides of the three-way valve and check the jet. Let's look at how to diagnose and determine whether the three-way valve or PCB is defective. 1. Turn the refrigerator off and remove the three-way valve connector of the unit. 2. Connect the three-way valve connector to the three-way connector port on the right side of the jig. Precaution: adjusting the three-way valve with the jig can result in 12 volts application and lead to PCB damage. 3. Turn the jig on. 4. Turn the refrigerator on. 5. Check if LED lights off sequentially. The repeated sequential lights indicate that the PCB is normal. Irregular lights indicate that the faulty PCB needs to be replaced. Let's move on to how to diagnose PCB if the main PCB type is SCD or Saginomiya. For SCD type PCB, 4 LEDs flash about 10 sets in the initial phase. For Saginomiya type PCB, 4 LEDs flash about 3 sets in the initial phase. If malfunctions such as weak cooling or faulty defrosting occur after replacing the PCB, ensure to verify that the three-way valve matches with PCB type. 7th, let me explain how to diagnose EEV valve. Products available are heat pump dryer, styler, air conditioner, system AC, and step motor. 1. Separate EEV valve connector from PCB. 2-1. If EEV valve is 5-pin, insert it into EEV 5P port on the right side of jig. 2-2. If EEV valve is 6-pin, insert it into EEV 6 port on the bottom side of the jig. 3. Select the type of EEV valve. Under the jig menu, press 1 three-way and then 3 EEV. Next, you can press the button 1 to operate the EEV valve of the system AC that has a control range of 2000 pulse. Press the button 2 to operate the EEV or LEV valve that has a control range of 460 pulse.
4-1. Verify the cooling power by opening and closing the system EEV. 4-2. Verify the cooling power by opening and closing EEV or LEV. Coil disconnection occurs when there is no rotation noise or vibration while functioning. Valve rotor restriction occurs when noise or vibration is produced while functioning. In this case, change the body. If the valve is a closed restriction when opened, the evaporator will not cool. If the evaporator cools when closed, it is an open restriction. In this case, change the body.
Explain how to measure the temperature. 1. Power on the jig. 2. Prepare to connect the temperature sensor. 3. Connect the temperature sensor. 4. Place the sensor where you want to measure the temperature. If you measure food temperature, wrap vinyl around the temperature sensor for protection. 5. Select 2 from the initial menu. Room temperature will show. 6. Do the measurement by comparing the set temperature. Room temperature will show. 9. Let me explain how to check BLDC fan motor. 1. Power on the jig. 2. Connect the fan motor cable. 3. Connect the fan motor cable and fan motor. Check that the fan motor is either 3-pin or 4-pin type before connection. 4. Select 4 from the initial menu. 5. FB pulse will show and the fan will spin. FB pulse is different depending on the type of fan motor. FB80 indicates that FB frequency is 80 Hz. Normal FB range of pulse is 20 to 599 Hz. 6. If the fan motor has defect, fan error will show and the fan motor stops spinning. Error will occur within 3 seconds if the FB pulse is lower than 19 Hz or higher than 600 Hz. How to go back to the main menu? If you select 3, you will return to the main menu and the fan motor will keep spinning. If you select 4, you will return to the main menu and the fan motor will stop spinning. Since you already have learned how to check pressure in the previous section, we will skip this part. This is the end of the pre-training on Advanced Course on Heavy Repair of Refrigeration Cycle. Congratulations on completing the pre-training.